Hi everyone! Our topic today is, what would have happened if USA lost the Revolutionary War? If the British had thwarted the American Revolution, the consequences for America might have been terrifyingly harsh. After all, during the war, the British Army demonstrated a penchant for brutality. When a small force of colonial rebels waved the white flag and tried to surrender at Waxhaws, South Carolina in May 1780, the Redcoats simply slaughtered them, killing more than 100 men. In New York, which remained under Loyalist control, the Brits jammed American captives into the hulls of prison ships, where they were given nothing but British sailors, discarded table scraps to eat, and were denied access to sunshine or fresh air. Though the conditions on these prison ships weren't necessarily that much worse than any conditions the Redcoats endured as prisoners of war, the number of dead was extraordinary. 11,000 prisoners perished there from diseases like yellow fever and dysentery. Had the British been victorious, it seems likely that King George III would have come through on the promise he made in 1775 to bring the condign punishment the authors, perpetrators, and abettors of such traitors' designs. The British had executed the leaders of a failed Scottish rebellion in 1747, and it seems likely that they would have marched George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and other American revolutionaries to the gallows as well. One of the reasons for the rebellion was the colonists' fear that the British government would increase their taxes. That was ironic because after adopting the US Constitution, the Americans went on to tax themselves at much higher rates than the 1% or so of colonial economic output that the British took by imposing the Navigation Acts. But had the revolution failed, the British might have punished the rebels by making them pay additional reparations for the cost of suppressing the revolt, a total of about 80 million pounds sterling, the equivalent of roughly a few $billion in today's US dollars. So, post-war colonial America might have been a pretty hungry, impoverished place with food crops being sold off or shipped to England. The result might have been widespread famine, akin to what occurred in Ireland in the 1840s. Additionally, the British might have punished American rebels by seizing their personal land and homes, just as they seized the estates of Scottish nobles who'd supported a rebellion against British rule. That would have radically altered the power structure in American society. Some of that land might have gone to the Hessian mercenaries the British imported from Germany to help them in the war. In one 1778 proclamation, the British promised each Hessian captain who brought 40 men an 800-acre estate, and each individual soldier would receive another 50 acres. If the colonists had lost the war, there probably wouldn't be a United States of America period. A British victory in the Revolution probably would have prevented the colonists from settling into what is now the US Midwest. In the peace treaty that ended the 7 Years' War in 1763, the French conceded to England control of all contested lands to the banks of the Mississippi River. The British government wanted to keep that region wild and unsettled so it could collect revenues from the lucrative fur trade that the French had developed and issued a proclamation that year closing the frontier to settlers. If the revolution hadn't eliminated that barrier, there might never have been an Ohio or Minnesota as we know them. But if the 13 colonies had not won independence, the map of the continent might have been altered in other ways as well. Without a powerful federal government, the interior of North America and the western coast might be separate nations today. Additionally, there wouldn't have been a US war with Mexico in the 1840s either. So that nation might have retained Texas, Arizona, and other parts of the Southwest, and become vastly richer and more influential as a world power. And that's it. That's how Revolutionary War would have influenced the world if it won by Brits.